It's officially announced, and we've got a very happy bunny next to whichever side he is. The camera always, I'm never sure. No, there. We've got a very happy bunny next to me, to that side of me. And it's because West Ham United have signed Danny Ings. Joe, you've wanted this guy since he was hobbling around at Liverpool, begging to, well, he got signed Liverpool, got injured. He was hobbling around, about to come back. And you said, oi, I like this guy. He'd be the perfect signing for West Ham.
I don't know if he still is the perfect signing for West Ham. Years have gone by now. He's 30. But I think he's a very good signing for West Ham. I think, the best time to sign him would have been 5 years ago or whatever. But better late than never. Maybe in 4 years' time we'll get James Maddison.
Nice. Absolutely. This came, well, I say came from left of field. You did a little video earlier on in the transfer window. And I know you did the video, but you probably didn't expect this to happen. I think the first thing is, and probably the most important one here, what's your gut feeling? Do you think this David Moyes had anything to do with this at all?
A little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if his argument to the board, perhaps if he was to be questioned as to why the new signings aren't working, is the first argument he might use is they need time to settle into the Premier League.
Oh, so he'll use that on this one. Don't worry about that.
So I think Danny Ings eradicates that argument altogether. The fact of the matter is, we're towards the end of January. We need, ideally, a couple of players that we don't need a settling in process for. We know they can do it in the Premier League. And Danny Ings is showing over many seasons now he can do it in the Premier League. I think it's a little bit of Moyes, but I also think it's that type of signing that actually the new manager, whoever it is, will be able to work with Danny Ings. It's not that left of field type of player. It's not like bringing in someone like a Adama Traoré, which only certain managers would be able to work with Adama Traoré. You've got to appreciate what he brings and what he doesn't bring, essentially. But with Danny Ings, he's such a all-rounded striker. Actually, I think regardless of which manager comes in, I expect them to be able to work with Danny Ings.
That would have been our dream team, wouldn't it? Yours and mine. Maybe Almiron as well. But to be fair, he's got all popular now, Almiron. It's not like a left of field. We did a Newcastle preview. And who do you like, Gonzo? I like Almiron. And yeah, he's fashionable now. But that would have been a dream team. Adama Traoré, Danny Ings, ripping it up. Top four, here we come. And all the rest of it. I just don't know where he fits in under David Moyes, bearing in mind the type of striker that David Moyes likes. I think he can score goals. I think he's a good player, and I'm really pleased to get him. Don't get me wrong. I've just sort of I've stood on the sidelines while you've admired him, but I'd never disagreed with you. I think he's a very, very good player, even though I personally wasn't pushing for him to come. I really struggle to see how David Moyes is going to get the best out of him at all. I know he drops deep and all the rest of it, but he's not what David Moyes wants or traditionally the type of striker David Moyes uses. Are you worried about that?
Yeah, a little bit. I can't disagree with that. I've seen Villa play Leeds United recently, and then Aston Villa scored very early in that game, 2 minutes in. They counter-attacked from a Leeds corner and scored. Sound familiar? But Ollie Watkins went off injured in the first half, so naturally Danny Ings came on to replace him, and it didn't work. Danny Ings was very isolated. He couldn't do the job that Ollie Watkins was doing, which requires a bit of pace, but also being very, very mobile, being very energetic. And Danny Ings just doesn't have that in his locker anymore. He's 30. He's not as quick as he was. He's still not slow. He's still got a bit of speed about him and a bit of acceleration. He's still strong and good at holding the ball up. But he couldn't run the channels like Watkins could, or he couldn't press the defence like Watkins could. And there was a dip in Villa's performance when that substitution was made. And I have a little bit of a worry that is what Danny Ings is going to be doing at West Ham, which is isolated, essentially. We've seen it with Scamacca and Antonio this season. So it's naive to suggest that we bring in Danny Ings and suddenly Bowen and Saïd Benrahma get a bit narrower and closer to the striker, because if that was the case, they could have been doing that already with Scamacca up front. They haven't been. Ings has been left alone. Scamacca's been left alone, isolated. The same thing will happen to Ings. That's my biggest worry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about that, obviously, which is why I brought it up. There are some positives, though, although not. I don't think they overly relate to David Moyes, and that is actually with Scamacca, because I do think he can play alongside Scamacca, whereas Antonio, I mean, there's just nothing there. There's, I've alluded to yourself. There's no whatever the opposite to chemistry is. Probably physics. Biology. They've got that anyway.
That was quite good.
Whatever the opposite is. Anyway, they just don't have any chemistry. I'm flailing around here. They've got no chemistry. They look like they've never seen each other before, and it doesn't get any better each time you see it. Danny Ings and Scamacca, I do think we talked about the dream team. You sent me a little screenshot last time. Not one of those. Get your mind out of the gutter. He sent me a picture.
It's just a photograph. It's not a screenshot. It's just a photograph. I don't know why he's calling that a screenshot.
Hey, I don't. Look, people call normal pictures selfies now. There'll be somebody else, as a third party, has clearly taken a picture, and as you know, the person says it's a selfie. No, it's not a selfie. Just a photograph. Anyway. So whatever I said, anyway, you sent me a picture of Sean Dyche snuggling Danny Ings, and you laughed and said the dream team. We had a chuckle last night about it. But seriously, though, obviously you laughed and it was a joke. But you know, could that happen? Big Scamacas like Danny Ings and Chris Woods. I know they probably ever played together, did they, at Burnley? Because he was long gone by then. But you know what I'm saying? The big one and the cheeky one up top with Sean Dyche as manager.
Regardless of the manager, I wouldn't be adverse to seeing it because Scamacca needs support and he needs somebody closer to him. Danny Ings is better in a front two. Danny Ings often worked better at Aston Villa, in my opinion, when Ollie Watkins was on the field at the same time. I often felt that when them two started, that's when they looked better. The problem was what was behind them in the team. It was a bit of a struggle for Gerrard to work out how to use Bailey, Buendia, and then get Ramsey in there with McGinn and Louise. You had too many central players to some extent to make that partnership work. You want to have almost traditional wide midfielders, so you can go a bit more 4-4-2 or something, or go with wing backs and go 3-5-2. And Villa didn't really have the personnel for that other 8 outfielders, but I've always felt Ings worked better when Watkins was alongside him. So, yeah, the Scamacca-Ings partnership, yes. Do I think there's anything in the Dyche thing? Not really. I think it's just a bit of fun, isn't it? It's more of a imagine kind of thing. But, I mean, the good thing is, if Dyche did take over from Moyes, you know there's a striker there that Dyche likes and can get the best out of.
Yeah, absolutely. The only downside, and I do think we need somebody to hit the ground running, I do think is the lack of legs in the team. I think if you go into them, bring another 30-year-old in, and let's get this right, he's 30, not 50. So, you know, you're perfectly fit when you're a 30-year-old. You know, arguably at peak fitness. It's just he's going to, when he gets to 31, 32, deteriorate. I don't know. At the point we've not actually been able to have. In fact, I'm gonna be perfectly honest here. We've pre-recorded this before the official signing has been announced, so we don't know how long it's for. Maybe we could edit it in. We could do this bit and we could say, "Oh, well, it's only a 2-year contract, Geo." "Oh, well, it's only a 3-year contract, Geo."
I
2-year option.
I actually reckon you're half right with both of them. I reckon it'll be a 2.5 one. I'm guessing. I reckon it's a 2.5-year deal because it's a little bit of security for Danny Ings, isn't it? I think he's got 18 months to go in his Villa contract. So why would he move for anything less than 2.5 years? You know what I mean? Usually, if a player's at that age, they tend to use for that security of contract, don't they? And given the position we're in, we don't really have any arguments with that. What is interesting, though, perhaps, I mean, what I will say about that is Danny Ings has never been a striker that relies on his pace. He's not slow. Like I said, he does have a bit of speed about him. But he's not Jamie Vardy, who's solely relied on playing on the shoulder or defender, getting the ball played in. Danny Ings is a wonderful craftsman inside the 18-yarder, can make space for others, but can also create a chance out of nothing. And that's what I think good strikers can do, where you can give them an average ball and they'll turn into a bloody good one. You just simply have to give it to him in his feet with his back to the goal, and he'll turn the defender and put it into the back of the net for you. And you're like, wow, great pass. Wasn't really. It was average. It's just that it's really good play by the striker to make it look good. And I think Danny Ings, that is his game. His positioning is fantastic. I think his control is really good, and his finishing. He's still one of the most clinical strikers in the Premier League today, and he has been for the last couple of seasons. So he's Aston Villa's top goal scorer. We're buying Aston Villa's top goal scorer. He's got 6 goals in the Premier League this season. Our top scorer is Scamacca and Benrahma with 3 each. So our 2 top scorers combined has got the same goals as what Danny Ings has. Danny Ings can be and will be our top goal scorer this season in the Premier League, which says more about what's happened so far. But what was I talking about Danny Ings before I started blathering? His contract. It's a good thing. He turned down 2 Premier League clubs to come to West Ham.
Oh,
don't know who they are. They might be Bournemouth and Everton, but I don't know who they are. It's been unnamed, if you like. But apparently, there was another couple of clubs interested. We know Everton were in for him. They tried to get him on loan at the start of the window, and Villa said, no, we might sell him, but you ain't getting him on loan. So Everton's won. There's another Premier League club believed to be after him, and I think it might have been Southampton, actually. But for whatever reason, he's decided to come to West Ham. It's probably money.
There you go. Well, thank you very much, Geo, for your insightful opinions on that. You got something else to say, haven't you?
How did you know that?
You got my movement. If people want to backtrack a little bit, you'll see when it sounded like I was doing me wrapping up a bit of patter towards the end.
I've done my numbers because there's obviously a concern over Danny Ings' injury record, naturally, which is understandable given he's had 2 huge injuries, both whilst at Liverpool. He's had 2 horrendous injuries. What could be almost career ending for some players. I see it as a good thing. It's a testament to the person he is, not just a player, the person he is, to come back from them and go on and have a good career. But I had a little look in this season. He's missed no Premier League games. He's got 6 goals in 18. Last season, 30 games, so he missed 8. 5 to injury, the other 3 unsure, but he scored 7 goals. Season before that, he played 29. That was at Southampton, and he got 12 goals. Yeah. And this is a crap Southampton team, by the way. It was a bang average Southampton team at best. He got 12 goals. The season before that, okay, I'm going back to 1920, but bear with me. 22 goals in 38 games. He played in every single Premier League fixture. So, okay, the season before that, he only played 24 games. But my point is, last 3.5 years, 3.5 seasons, he's not missed that many games. Scamacca, this season, has missed more games for West Ham through injury than Ings has in the last season and a half for Aston Villa.
That is a good stat, isn't it?
The problem is,
it's not a bad stat, actually.
The problem is West Ham and injury players don't tend to go well.
No, they don't. But I hear you, mate. I hear you. A fit and available Danny Ings. He turns a bad ball into a good ball, so we can.
And if we get relegated, he'll be the best striker in the Championship.
He will, absolutely. Which does beg the question: does he have a relegation clause where he drops down to a tenner a week inserted into his contract?